Hey, good afternoon. A lot of people have reached out to me since the last video that I posted about squatters, asking me a lot of questions. So I thought, why not? I'll just post another video and give a little bit more context and a little bit more experiences that I've had around squatters. And how do I even know if the person really is or isn't a squatter? Well, first thing is when people contact me about selling their property, one of the things that I do naturally is I go over there. I send someone over there to look at the condition of the property. And there's been times when I'm met there by someone that isn't supposed to be there, according to the owner. And I ask the owner, who is this person? He says, I don't know who that is. And it turns out that person is a squatter. So, what is a squatter? Well, a squatter is someone that's staying in a property that isn't authorized to be there. Well, how do you know if they're authorized to be there or not? Well, it's a good question. Um, if there's a lease in place between the owner of record and the person living there, then that gives the squatter the right to be there through agreement. They have leasehold rights. So if the person is staying in the property, they don't really have the right to be there. So first, we have to determine if the person is or isn't a squatter. So that's one way to make that determination. Um, Sometimes I've had this instance where this happened. Um, Property belongs to someone that's passed on, and they have a child staying there. Well, they're not small children. The person that might have passed might have been like 80 years old or something, and they might have their 60-year-old son or daughter staying there. However, they left the property by will to another person, whether it's a person they were in a relationship with or another child, and it doesn't say anything about that person being authorized to live there. So I've had instances where we actually had to go so far as to do an ejectment action to displace that person from the property because they weren't supposed to be there. Uh, Normally, what we try to do is just engage with that person in a conversation, and a lot of times either ask them to leave. If they say no, uh, we offer them money to leave. And the approach that we take is if we have to spend money on lawyers and courts, which could go into the thousands of dollars, um, well, then we won't have the money to both do that and to give to you. So, how can we work together to have you leave the property and put money in your pocket? And normally speaking, that that approach is the best approach to take because sometimes desperate people do desperate things and they put themselves in bad positions and they don't know how to get themselves out. And the owner of the property is furious at that person for being there in the first place. And a lot of times, those owners of property, they break the law in order to get that person out of their property, and they feel justified doing so, even if it's their own brother and sister. And so, a lot of times, when we encounter that situation, we have to um, convince the owner not to use force or violence against that person because then that makes the problem worse because then they're the ones that will go to jail and that person will just continue to live there. And it's just bad energy overall. So normally we step in as a third party and we try to make peace and we try to get it all in writing, and we created even like a special document um, for doing this so that we don't have to take it to court. Because if you do take things like this to court, it can take minimum months, but It could take years before the matter is resolved. And that whole time, the person's living there, running up utility bills, running up gas, water, which stay against the title of the property. They could be causing damage to the property. Um, and at the end of the day, even if they get hurt um, in the property, they could actually sue you as the owner and get a judgment against you, unfortunately, and get a money settlement, you know. So, the longer the person stays in the property, the more of a wild card they become. So that is how I've dealt with squatters now and in the past. And to be honest with you, I believe that as the economy starts to tighten more and there's more of a lack of liquidity because of unemployment, because of higher interest rates, because of shortages, we're probably going to, and crime, sorry, I forget crime. I think we're actually going to see more of an uptick in squatters in Philadelphia. So if you own a vacant property in Philadelphia, I would suggest that you not leave it empty for very long because there's people out there kind of flying under the radar that make it their business to, you know what's vacant around, and sometimes they encourage people to go in those properties, or sometimes they might go in those properties themselves. And when I tell people that, their natural reaction is, well, I'll just show up over there and I'll kick them out. And if you do that and they call 911, you're the one that's going to jail, not them. Especially if they can show that, for example, they get mail there, that they have their furniture there, that they have a key to the property, that the utilities are on in their name, things like that. So, it's a little bit more complicated than most people know, and it's unfortunate. I even had a situation once where I was called out to look at a property in Philadelphia, and it was not in the greatest neighborhood. It was in Kensington. It was in the Badlands, and the owner lived in the property. And I said, "Well, why do you want to sell?" He said, "Well, I just got the squatters out of here." I said, "Oh, I thought you said you lived here." He goes, "I did live here. I do live here. Sorry. I rented 2 rooms to 2 very nice girls, and they would pay me, $500 a month in rent for each room. I took care of all the expenses. And, about 2 months into their tenancy, they got addicted to drugs and they started bringing people into the house, having parties in their room. And naturally, I asked them to stop. They wouldn't stop. I asked people to leave. They wouldn't leave. I called the police, and the police said, "Well, there's nothing we can really do about it. They live here. You put them here." And then they had an altercation, and he wound up getting the police called on him, and he's the one that got in trouble. So, fortunately, I forget how he got them out, but he did get them out. And boy, that was very sobering because it was the first time where I had seen that a person even renting a room from you technically has squatters' rights in Philadelphia and in Pennsylvania. So that was something I'd never given any thought to. But if you have a property in Philadelphia area and it's vacant and you'd like me to come take a look at it, or even if you have a squatter already in there, please feel free to give us a call, and we'll come out and we'll take a look at it and we'll try to problem solve the situation for you.